All right, everybody, get ready because we're doing a deep dive today on something you guys have been requesting a lot, behavioral economics. Specifically, how companies use it to, well, basically get us to buy more stuff.
It's going to be a wild ride. We're talking about the subtle psychology behind, why you click add to cart or how long you spend scrolling.
Yeah, like sometimes I feel like these companies are straight up hacking my brain.
Imagine.
Those limited time offer things, I totally fall for
So it's
them.
not magic, it's science. Right. One of the biggest tactics they use is something called nudging. Basically, instead of forcing a choice, they kind of nudge you towards it.
Okay, I've heard of that, like those pre-checked boxes that sign you up for like a million emails.
Exactly. That's nudging, using default options. Most people are like too busy or whatever to uncheck the box.
Or lazy, let's be honest.
Right, exactly. But it gets even more sophisticated than that. Think about like a clothing website. You're looking at a jacket, and then they show you what other shoppers also bought with it.
Oh, that is so sneaky. See, now I'm thinking I need the matching shoes or whatever.
Exactly. That's social proof. We want to fit in, make the right choices.
And buy all the things.
Well, yeah, sometimes. But it's not just online shopping. Think about those charity donation cards. They have the amounts already there, and the higher ones are like highlighted.
Ah, so instead of just leaving it open-ended, they're kind of suggesting you donate more?
Clever.
Very clever. And then there's framing, which is all about how information is presented. Like, they could just say something's on sale, but if they phrase it the right way.
Okay, yeah, give me an example of that, because that sounds powerful. Think about those subscribe and save buttons you see everywhere. They could just offer a discount, right? But by framing it as a subscription, they're increasing the chance you'll buy again and again.
Oh, wow, that's almost devious how well that works. It's like they're not just making a sale, they're locking you into a pattern.
Exactly. It plays on this idea of commitment and consistency. Once you've committed, even if it's just a free trial, you're more likely to stick around.
Okay, so we've got nudging, social proof, framing. What other psychological tricks are up their sleeves?
Well, we can't forget everyone's favorite rewards. Incentives and gamification are everywhere these days.
Oh, don't even get me started on those mobile games. I get sucked in by those points and badges, even though they don't really mean anything.
Right. But it feels good to earn them. It's all about that dopamine rush, right?
Right?
Our brains love that little hit of pleasure when we achieve something.
So we're basically wired to get excited about virtual trophies,
Yeah,
even if they don't get you anything in real life.
essentially, yeah.
Huh.
And companies have figured that out. They create these complex systems, points, badges, leaderboards. It's everywhere.
And it's not just points and badges, right? It's like the whole experience is designed to keep you hooked.
Absolutely. They've gamified our lives. But yeah, there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do gamification.
Okay, so what separates the good from the bad?
The key is balance. You want a good balance between what we call extrinsic rewards, like those points and badges, and then intrinsic motivators.
Intrinsic motivators, meaning.
The stuff that makes you feel good just from using the product or service itself, like the actual value you get out of it.
Okay, so like a well-designed loyalty program might give you points for purchases, which is extrinsic, but also make you feel like you're part of some exclusive club, which is intrinsic.
You got it. It's about making people feel like they're part of something special, not just racking up points for no reason.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I want to switch gears for a second and talk about something we touched on earlier. Decision architecture. It sounds kind of matrixy, but instead of dodging bullets, we're being nudged toward our wallets.
Well, maybe not quite the matrix, but it's pretty close. Decision architecture is all about designing environments, like websites or apps or even physical stores that influence your choices.
So less about tricking people and more about strategically designing the experience.
Right. Right. Like, have you ever been on a website that's just so confusing and frustrating that you're like, forget this, and you just leave?
Ugh, all the time. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
That's bad decision architecture. A well-designed website, on the other hand, guides you smoothly through the whole thing, makes it super easy to find what you need and, yeah, ultimately make a purchase.
So it's all about reducing friction, making the desired action, whether it's buying a product or signing up for something, as easy as possible.
Exactly. A perfect example is one-click ordering.
Oh man, don't even get me started. It's way too easy to spend money when you only have to click once.
But that's why it's so brilliant. It minimizes the steps between browsing and buying, so you're less likely to change your mind.
It's like they're removing those decision points. The fewer times I have to think, do I really need this? The more likely I am to just buy it.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that, like where they place the add to cart button, what colors they use. It's all very strategic.
So it's not just what they're showing you, it's how it looks and where it is on the page. Like subliminal messaging, but visual.
You got it. And don't forget about choice architecture. It sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes having too many options is a bad thing.
Oh, 100%. Like standing in the grocery store, paralyzed by indecision because there are just too many kinds of cereal.
Exactly. So a smart company might offer fewer options, but they're carefully chosen to make the decision easier for you.
Less is more. I like it. What other decision architecture tricks do they have up their sleeves?
Another big one is progressive disclosure. Instead of bombarding you with all the information at once, they reveal it bit by bit.
Oh, like those multi-step forms where you only see one section at a time.
Yep. It breaks a complex process into smaller, less scary chunks.
So we've got nudging, incentives, gamification, and this whole decision architecture thing. It's starting to feel like we're living in a carefully curated snow globe, and all these companies are just shaking it up to get us to spend money.
Well, to be fair, it's not always about spending money. These same principles can be used for good, too. Like, think about those apps that use gamification to encourage healthy habits.
True, true. It's all about how these tools are used. But I still can't help but wonder about the ethics of it all. Where do we draw the line between persuasion and straight-up manipulation?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's something we definitely need to unpack a bit more.
So we've talked about all these clever tactics, but it feels like there's a fine line between, smart marketing and kind of being manipulative. Where do we draw that line?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? And the answer, like with most things, is kind of murky.
So how do we even begin to untangle this? Is there like a framework for thinking about the ethics of it?
Well, one way is to think about informed consent. Like,
Hmm.
are people aware of how their behavior is being influenced? And do they even care?
So transparency is key. Like if a company is upfront about using nudges or whatever, it's more ethical than if they're being sneaky about it.
Exactly. Transparency definitely helps. If they're open about what they're doing and they give you control over your choices, that's huge.
Okay, that makes sense. But then there's also the question of, even if a company is being transparent, what if the thing they're nudging you towards isn't actually good for you?
Right, right. That's where things get really complicated. Like, let's say a food delivery app, right? They make adding a soda to your order the default.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So they could say, hey, we're just trying to make things convenient. But are they also subtly pushing people towards less healthy choices? It's tricky.
It's like transparency matters, but it's not the whole story. You also got to look at what they're trying to get you to do.
Absolutely. And that's where intent comes in, which is way harder to prove. But there are some red flags, like, is the tactic designed to take advantage of people's vulnerabilities?
Like those social media apps that suck you in with notifications, and before you know it, you've wasted an hour scrolling.
Exactly. They might say, hey, we're just giving people what they want, but are they? Or are they contributing to unhealthy behaviors? It's a slippery slope.
This has been a real eye-opener. It's kind of amazing and kind of terrifying all at the same time. We've learned so much about how our brains work, but are we using that knowledge for good?
If that's the million-dollar question, right? And like we've been saying, there's no easy answer. But the more aware we are of these tactics, the better equipped we are to, see them for what they are.
Yeah, and then we can decide how we want to interact with those companies.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
So true. Well, on that note, a huge thank you to you for breaking all of this down for us. This was fascinating. And to everyone listening, remember, just because they're trying to influence you doesn't mean it has to work. Stay curious, everybody.